companies are cut from the same cloth, and that one company's past not be another's future. We live in a different world today, and the open internet is the ultimate level playing field.
That was Google Chairman Eric Schmidt speaking today before a Senate committee. Schmidt was responding to allegations by Microsoft that Google overcharged competitors for advertising. It's part of a wider government inquiry into whether some Google practices are anti-competitive. Joining me now to discuss Google's legal troubles is Tom Barnett. Tom led the Justice Department's Antitrust Division from 2005 to 2008. He is now partner at law firm Covington and Burling in Washington. Tom currently provides legal counsel to travel search engine Expedia and testified earlier today at that hearing. Tom, welcome to Bloomberg West. So what was your impression of the hearing today? Were you at all convinced by what Eric Schmidt had to say?
Well, in a word, no. I was convinced that he understands that this is a serious situation, but on the actual issues that were being addressed, they're simply in denial. I don't think they quite get it. The issue here is that Google has become the dominant way in which people navigate the web. And if you are a website, your ability to get search traffic from Google determines whether you live or die, basically. And that gives Google tremendous power to decide who survives, who doesn't on the internet. That makes Google responsible for exercising that power in a level-handed and fair way that will preserve competition. And I really didn't hear any acknowledgement that they recognize the situation that they're in.
Tom, what exactly, though, do you think Google is doing wrong? I mean, Google says they're helping consumers by giving them the best choices. They say they're helping small businesses by driving traffic to those businesses that they otherwise wouldn't have.
Sure. And to be clear, there are many things that Google is doing that it's doing well. It has a terrific search engine. That's why it's become the dominant search engine. But by the same token, they're doing some things that, for example, are deceptive to consumers. If you search on Google, they're natural search results, but above them, in many instances now, are links that Google has specially placed there. And Chairman Schmidt acknowledged today that they are not, quote, algorithmic search results. They're search results that Google thinks should be up there. And many of those links are links to Google products that compete with other sites. And they do this, though, in a way that does not disclose to users that those links that are at the top of the page are not algorithmic search results. We all are conditioned to think that whatever's returned at the top of the page is what the Google algorithm has determined is most likely to be relevant to your query. But if it is instead a site that Google has an economic interest in, and they put that link there so you will click on it and stay on a Google page and they can monetize it, and you've been deceived into doing that, that's not fair competition.
Tom, Google says that its very structure keeps it from being a monopoly. They say competition is just a click away, isn't it?
No, in the sense that they are ignoring the fact that the barriers here to competition are really on the side of building a search engine. There are enormous scale advantages, enormous network effects, if you will, that make it virtually impossible for anyone else to build a search engine that can compete effectively with Google. It has only one other general search competitor today, and that is Bing. And as Senator Blumenthal said today, they're losing $2 billion a year while Google is making $29 billion a year. Google really is the dominant way that people navigate the web.
What about their contention that they don't really set advertising prices, that things really do float to the top of their results, and that ad prices are charged based on how much people are willing to pay in a very open market system?
That's a fundamental misconception of the way economics work. If you're a monopoly supplier of a product, auctioning it off is just an efficient way to extract as much monopoly rents as you can. So the fact that they have an auction has nothing to do with the fact that in paid search advertising, which is where the auction takes place, They have 80% of the revenues of paid search advertising in the United States. There are barriers to entry, and indeed, as I testified earlier today, in 2003, Chairman Schmidt acknowledged that there were major barriers to entry for anyone to come in and compete with Google in this area. That boils down to Google having monopoly power.
Tom, what exactly do you want to happen here, and what do you think is likely to happen? You know, Google keeps making these giant acquisitions, ITA software, for example, which pertains to Expedia. Regulators deliberate over it for a while, and then the acquisition goes through. I mean, is this just a lot of noise? Is anything really going to change?
Well, I certainly hope it will be a lot more than noise. What I want to happen is to have serious antitrust scrutiny, and where the facts warrant it, antitrust enforcement. The Google acquisition of the ITA software company is a great example. It did go through, but the Department of Justice, after an investigation, determined that the transaction as proposed by Google would violate the antitrust laws. And they made factual findings that are consistent with and support the conclusion that Google is dominant in search. And they obtained a judicial order that requires Google to make that key software available to other online travel search companies. And that's an example of where antitrust enforcement can make a difference. More broadly, the FTC has an investigation pending right now into Google's broader search advertising conduct. I want them to do a thorough investigation, and if they determine that Google is engaging in wrongful conduct, they should prohibit it. They should prohibit misleading or deceptive placement of links. They should prohibit Google from using other sites' content without their permission, which Google has done in the past. If Google actually is penalizing sites, well, you get the idea.
We will be following that investigation. Tom Barnett of Covington & Burling, thanks so much for joining us here on Bloomberg West.